Hi everyone, this is Dr. Essie Stacey, helping you to be well. Right, hi everyone, and welcome to Barbara Pidgeon. Barbara, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. When did we meet, and what's our relationship all about?
Wow. Well, good morning, first of all, and hi to anyone who's watching or listening. And thanks, Essie, for inviting me. You know, my favourite topic. So we met, is it 3 years ago at IFA's de Terra in Spain?
Yeah.
And I think our common interest is natural health, being with nature, sharing, caring, and just doing the right thing, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, we met in the mushroom farm, and both of us into like health and good supplements and so on. Yeah,
that's right. We were at this mushroom. It was a mushroom farm, wasn't it?
yeah.
de Terra, and we were there to learn about mushrooms. And I kept seeing you standing, looking at the scenery, and sort of almost being away on another planet. It looked like to me. Until you told me what you were doing, which was, well, I think that's just natural for you, just breathing, wasn't it? And we just got talking about breathing. So perhaps you could just launch in, because I know you've got an amazing testimony to share about your journey learning about breathing. And so I'm just going to minimize me. There you go. So that we can see more of you. So do share about how all this worked out. What were you doing before, and how did you get into breathing?
I'm just thinking, as it might be worth clarifying that the mushroom farm is not the magic type.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, medicinal. They're medicinal mushrooms. Yeah.
But it was magical in terms of the environment, and it was all organic, and the people that all came together. But yeah, it wasn't the psilocybin type mushrooms. Yeah. So briefly, background on me. I actually used to work in the oil industry, as I think I've told you, Essie. I worked for Shell. I lived in Namibia, the Netherlands, Oman, Nigeria, India. And I was so just caught up, busy. I was a single parent, 3 kids, expat life, and I wasn't really thinking that much about environment and stuff like that at all. Until I was living in Muscat in Oman, and I hurt my back mountain biking. And I just had this like, oh, I've got to do something different here. I think I'd living my life as if I was invincible. I was rushing here, rushing there, blah, 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 and get things done. And this like, boom, like it's like something just whacking you to say, wake up. And anyway, so I said, I have to do something different. Someone suggested, go and see this man, Shiva. Shiva was a man who had an Ayurvedic clinic in Muscat, where I lived. I go and see Shiva, and so I can hardly stand. I've hurt my back. And Shiva says, okay, your treatment will be that for 20 minutes, twice a day, you should watch your breath. As you breathe in, imagine your breath is going up your spine, and as you breathe out, imagine it's going down. I was like, are you joking? I've hurt my back. It's just like, do you not understand my problem here?
So hang on, let's just pause a minute. So you were in Muscat, which is where exactly?
Oman.
In Oman.
The Middle East, yeah.
And what were you doing in the oil industry? What was your job?
Well, my background's finance, so I'm a certified accountant. But I didn't do like mainstream kind of finance work. To progress in the organization, you had to have some kind of professional qualification. So I decided to be an accountant, but I'm definitely not a good accountant. But yeah, mainly my work focused on business improvement, change. So I was running a big project in Oman. I was seconded by Shell into the Oman Oil Company, and we were just looking at how to improve the business generally. And with a lot of success, but with a completely different leadership style then as I have now,
Wow.
interestingly.
Wow. And so
Yeah,
you went to see this Shiva person.
yeah, yeah.
And I just explain what is Ayurvedic for those people that don't know.
So Ayurveda is, again, it's a very natural and holistic type of healthcare, using a lot of herbs, using natural remedies, massage with very smelly oils, and watching the breath. It's a lot of, to do with yoga, the union of, mind and body and so on. So going back to nature,
Yeah.
essentially,
Yeah.
which is
See.
what I see a lot of what's happening at the moment,
Yeah.
in generally that we're going back. But I think with the wisdom of what's happened, in this last 100 years where we've industrialized and polluted and so on. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And so
natural
he
remedy.
gave you this breathe in, breathe out.
Yeah, exactly, which I thought was ludicrous. I mean, literally, I was like, "You nuts!" And he said, "And stop running, stop cycling, stop doing this." And I'm a runner, How can I stop running? I don't know why, Essie, but I went home and I did what he told me. I sat for 20 minutes in the morning before going to the office, and I sat for 20 minutes when I came back. It was agony because I was never used to sitting. I was never still. And, just sitting, like right now, I'm sitting cross legged. This is the way I sit. I don't sit normally now. And I'm very, very comfortable. For me to sit for 20 minutes, the pain was really bad. It took 4 months for me to stop having pins and needles, while I was sitting. So I sat, watched my breath, watched my breath, watched my breath. After about a year, I get up one morning and I think, I'm going for a run. To heck with what Shiva says, I'm going to run. And where I lived as well in Muscat, it was very hot and hilly. I did this 10K route. It was like I hadn't stopped running. And normally if you stop exercising and then you start to get back into it, it's a struggle. I didn't struggle at all.
Wow.
So the scientist in me is like, well, how can this possibly be? How can it be that I'm as fit and feel good? I was more flexible, and also I was calmer. I was different. It's subtle changes. And so then I started a whole load of research, and I first of all started to study a master's in transpersonal psychology. And
What's that? What's transpersonal psychology?
yeah, so trans is going beyond the personal. It's a bit of a kind of bridge between what I see as the esoteric and the clinical.
Yeah.
So it's kind of bridging the gap. So it's kind of like, it's not purely spiritual and it's not purely clinical. And that's kind of like, just thinking about it now, how my life has now become, because I like the science, but I also see, how all this nature and being with nature, how it works. And I think we're going beyond like science and spiritual are separate. So it's a merging of like looking at the whole thing
Yeah.
and understanding that it's collaboration and bringing an integration of everything basically. So that's going beyond the personal, realizing there's more than this physical matter, and that there is an interconnection and so on. But
So
yeah,
you went from this scientific, very physical, literally physical person to someone who was made to stop, breathe, and then begin to almost wake up in consciousness by the sounds of it.
that is absolutely right. Because one thing that happened to me, Essie, I actually grew up in being abused as a child. My stepfather, sexually abused me growing up. And I completely suppressed that. I didn't want to look at that. And I used to say, or people who say they're stressed or say that their childhood has impacted them, it's just rubbish. They're just, just get on with it kind of thing. So that made me do a lot of internal healing as well. And also to stop the shame and the guilt and the blame and so on. It's just so healing when we start to talk about our truth and what's happened in our life, when we can really, really heal. So just connecting with the breath. So what happens, child abuse and other abuse, we tend to disconnect the mind and the body, the dissociation. And this is what exactly, I didn't feel anything, Essie. I was in my brain. And I thought I was as well invincible. Nothing could hurt me until, that mountain bike accident. And then when I started to breathe and you start to feel the sensations in your body, exactly right. The waking up was exactly what happened.
And how soon did that start to happen?
It's what I found generally, when you start to get into these kind of mindfulness embodied practices, it's very subtle. So it's difficult to say, and there's some scientific papers that talk about quite often the person themselves doesn't notice the difference, it's someone else. And what an instance for me, I was walking upstairs with one of my sons one day, and he asked me a question, and I responded to the question, and I was just like, oh, wow, I've changed. It just, everything very subtly changed. And of course, so like my research was, how did that work?
Yeah.
The science around that. I've actually got a couple of slides. Maybe
Yeah.
I could show you,
Yeah.
because this is all connected physiologically. And this is what I love about it, that, we can actually explain this
Yeah.
now.
I'll switch to the slide view if I can. Let's see if I can get that up. Yeah.
Let me just find where I want to go. So maybe actually I'll just talk quickly about this for
Yeah.
what really surprises me is that we're living in a time where we've got much more access to self-help and transformational workshops and etc., etc., etc. We've got, much more information, internet connections, but, the paradox is, obesity, diabetes, we're actually, eating ourselves to death in some cases, with the choices that we make. And then we've got this thing that we've labeled as stress. And, that's become like when we're making poor choices and we raise the cortisol levels in our bloodstream, that can be caused by many, many reasons. It could be loneliness, depression, it could be just health, it can be poor sleep and so on. But we've just labeled this thing stress. And for me, I think it's important to get behind what is the stress? What is it that's causing us to make certain choices in our life? But what happens physiologically in the body is that our thoughts, how we feel, our environment, and in particular how we breathe impacts how our heart beats, the heart rate variability. So when I first started researching this, I didn't know anything about the heart. I didn't know anything about my body, basically. I didn't ever think about cause and effect. I didn't relate one thing with another. I didn't connect anything, basically. I was just go, get things done. But so I actually am what's called a HeartMath consultant. HeartMath is an organization that's done a lot of research on, the function of the heart and so on, the impact that has. So on here, on those little charts on the right, that's showing heart rate variability. So when we're in an emotionally stressed situation, the heart rate will tend to be beating erratic. So that red chart there. when we're at peace with ourselves, the heart rate variability will be smooth. So what I mean by that, I used to think if your average heart rate, was 60 beats a minute, that it's just going 60, 60, 60, 60. But I discovered that it might be 80, 50, 90, 40, whatever. So we have this heart rate variability, and I know you know all this, which has an amplitude, a size. And as we age, the amplitude kind of tends to shrink. So the highest our heart can go and the lowest it can go will shrink. But what most of us are not aware of, that as well as a size and amplitude, the heart rate variability has a shape. So it can be erratic, like the red chart there, or it can be smooth, like the blue chart there. The heart is the strongest organ in the body, and all the systems in the body will start to synchronize with what the heart's telling it to do. So if our heart rate variability is erratic, then we start to shut down all the non-essential functions in the body. So our digestion gets disrupted, our blood pressure, our pH balance, our elimination system, everything will be impacted by what the heart's telling us. So the heart is saying, danger, danger, just switch off anything that's not essential, be on full alert. And we use energy inefficiently, everything gets impacted, or everything is safe. Now, this is a system that's designed to get us out of immediate danger, so like the fight flight mechanism or the freeze. But we are switching this on now just by the thoughts in our head. Like, I love using a traffic jam analogy. We're in a traffic jam, and then we're getting angry with the traffic. Now, the body can't distinguish between I'm being chased by a tiger and it's, oh, she's just stuck in a traffic jam. And the heart will respond to what's going on. And what happens is, unaware for us, our breathing pattern will have changed. So the heart, let me just see what I've got on here. The heart will send a signal to the brain to switch on fight, flight, or freeze. The amygdala size will increase, and then the prefrontal cortex will decrease. And what's shown when we start to breathe and when we start to be mindful, we absolutely change everything. So I'll just quickly go on from that. So the question is, and we've kind of given it away in the title, Essie, how does the heart decide how to beat? And of course, it's through the breath. That is one of the biggest inputs to our system. So let me just come out of there for now. So how we're breathing is sending a message into the body. And most people can, especially kids, I'll ask them, so what happens when you're anxious? What happens to your breathing? Oh, I'm starting to breathe up here now. And I go like this. And what if you're happy and relaxed? Oh, my breath is like this. So kids just really pick up on this really quickly. And so when, as I say, when you see that the heart rate variability is erratic, you're shutting down the modern part of your brain, our ability to think, ability to make good choices, ability to use energy efficiently, everything. When the heart is nice and smooth, we're switching that on more. And when it's erratic, we've told our bodies that there's a threat.
Yeah.
But is our minds and the bodies, as they can't distinguish between a real threat and just worrying about the economy. Right now, everyone's worried about the virus. That's causing our stress levels to really increase. And I talk to kids as well. Say if they're in an exam situation, right? And this is whether you're in a business meeting or you've got to play a sport or whatever. I like, everyone can remember when we had to sit an exam. You're in the exam, you can't think the answer to the question. You come out of the exam and you remember the answer. So, and this is, we're in exam, we're put in a stress situation. The worst thing we can do when you have to be like able to produce results. So we switch off this part of the brain. We go to the amygdala because we've told the body we're in a stressful situation. We have to be prepared to fight, flight, or freeze because there's a tiger about to eat us. You know, the body can't distinguish that it's only an exam.
Yeah.
But if we could tell the kids, well, just breathe, and then you'll switch this part of the brain back on, and you'll come up with the answer. You don't need to wait, to go out the room. And this is in every situation of our life. So if we like got the virus, for instance, right now, and if we just take a step back, get our breath, in a harmonious state, the heart will be harmonious. This will impact our ability to fight off, viruses and so on, because our immune system won't be threatened. Because when we are like this, we're actually dumbing down our immunity because we're on alert. We're switching on the cortisol, stress. And we can either be in a vicious circle of stress, so the more stress, the more stress, the more stress. But then when you stop, take a step back, the more harmony. So we create chaos inside of us, or we create harmony.
I love
And
that.
what is,
I love that circling that you're doing because it's taken us to the breath, isn't it?
yeah,
And if we
exactly.
and if we just go back to that little bit, I'm still fascinated with your story. So you the back pain went away
Yes.
after a few 4 months, did it say, before you stopped this
But the
tingling?
pain from the back had gone away. The tingling was just the fact I wasn't used to sitting with my legs crossed.
Ah, so he got you doing that as well.
Yeah, I was sitting twice a day with my legs crossed on the floor. Imagine my breathe in, imagine the breath is going up the spine, and breathe out. Imagine. And I was like, shit, this guy's an idiot.
But it worked. I mean,
It
so
worked totally.
yeah. I mean, I'm a sport and exercise medicine doc. I deal with people with joint problems. Back pain and knee pain are the most common problems that are out there. So if you're
Yeah.
saying just breathe, then
Mm,
that's huge. And
mm.
so what? So your back got better, and then I know you went and did a marathon or something, didn't you?
Yeah, well, that was quite a few. I mean, I was a runner.
Yeah.
Um, and so, based on my breathing techniques, when I started to slow down, I got faster. Now, there's a particular breathing technique which was developed, first of all, by a Russian professor, Professor Buteyko. What his research discovered was that most of us are breathing out too much carbon dioxide. So he was looking at patients. He's like, why are the unhealthy ones going, and we can relate to that. If you see two people walking upstairs, one's healthy, one's not. How is the unhealthy one breathing in comparison to the other one? It's more out breath. So it's like, why are they not going, I
That's
need
so
more
true.
oxygen?
Yeah.
Yeah, why are they not breathing in more? Like, I need more oxygen. So all this research showed, like, our oxygen is carried within the hemoglobin in the red blood cells, right? And it's always 95, 97% saturated. The impetus for us to breathe is not to get more oxygen, it's to release carbon dioxide. We've got receptors in the brain which know our tolerable levels to oxygen and carbon dioxide. So the more unfit and unhealthy we are, the lower our tolerance to carbon dioxide. So we're breathing out more and more carbon dioxide.
Let's just clarify that. So because this is something, when you first mentioned it to me, I had to really kind of think it through. And
Um,
I'm a medic, and my husband's an anaesthetist, intensive care doc, and um, I don't think I would have believed you, except for that. I read a lot of research papers, and the research papers were saying that by giving people oxygen, we're making them worse. And
Yes.
sometimes in asthma, when, I worked in intensive care, in accident and emergency, someone comes with an asthma attack, you give them oxygen. But some of
Yes.
the research papers were saying that that was potentially making matters worse. And so what you're saying is that we've got these receptors in our body that recognize how much CO2 we have, and actually it's more beneficial for your body to be able to cope with a higher CO2 level. And then as
Yes.
you get sick, you can't cope with those higher CO2 levels, and you're trying to get
Panting.
yeah, you're trying to blow off, we call it blowing off the CO2. You're trying to blow it off.
Yes.
So that is a major, that fact there is key.
Mm.
And I know
Yeah.
people that aren't really scientific might not recognize that, but
Mm.
what Buteyko and yourself are really revealing to us is the why we get sick in terms of our breathing.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
crazy.
Yeah. And so one of the reasons, Essie, CO2 is not just a waste gas. We need CO2. CO2, so that we can decide to move our biceps, right? So we've got this striated muscle, which, that we've got the central nervous system in the brain and the spine, which will help us to choose to do things. But we've got the autonomic nervous system, and digestion's involved in that. So where we don't have direct control. So all of the muscles in the trunk, smooth muscle, move by a process of peristalsis, this wave movement. And CO2 is involved in that,
Yeah.
digestive system,
Wow.
the moving and so on. It's also involved, so the oxygen embedded in the hemoglobin in the red blood cells. To uptake the oxygen, CO2 needs to be there to, get that out
I
and
didn't
do
know that.
the whole oxygenation, cell rejuvenation, and so on. And one, of the symptoms of not, being able to take up the oxygen as we age, a lot of people get Raynaud's and breathing things and so on, because we're not able. So the body will always look for, the essential functions first.
Mm.
And so fingertips and toes, you'll still be alive, if you're not got the full use of, all of those kind of functions. So yeah, going back to my marathon, right? So when I run, I will only breathe in and out through my nose. Apart from if I'm in a race, I'll use my mouth, and then what happens, you become fitter, faster and healthier when you're using the nose for breathing. And I've coached a lot of people on this.
So you don't open your mouth?
No, I'm breathing in through my nose, out through my nose. So I did Brighton, it was 3 years ago, 2017. And I hadn't trained that well because I was in Oman. I was doing some work in Oman. It was hot. I didn't do as much training as I wanted. I had no idea how I was going to do it. I went with my son. We'll do this quietly because my son, he knows I tell this story to everyone. So my son and I are going on the train down to Brighton from London, and he's like, "Okay, Mum." So he was anticipating to do within 3.5 to 4 hours, and you go off in stages. I was anticipating somewhere between 4 and 4.5 hours. So he'd gone off before me, but on the train he's like, "Okay, Mum, I'm going to be finished ages before you. My mates are going to be there. I'll see you in the bar, right? We'll be in this place. See you there." And I jokingly said, "Are you sure you're going to beat me?" And he's laughed. He thought this was hilarious. So we go off. I get to the end at the beach in Brighton. And here's Steve lying on the ground, like, exhausted. And I come in, I'm like this. I said, "Steve, I thought you were going to be in the pub." He said, he's like, So you can immediately see online what your time is. I said, "Steve, I think I've beaten you." And we looked and I'd beaten him.
Oh.
And honestly, Essie, I was so relaxed on that run. And normally I wouldn't stop, but I was stopping and having a drink. I even went to the toilet. I was just out enjoying myself. And and it was because of the breath.
But what time did you do?
It was 4, I think 4:15. I can't remember.
Wow. Wow.
And I did London 20 years before. I was expecting then to get between 3.5 and 4 hours. But I was so exhausted, Essie. It took me 4.5 hours. The next day I was in agony. After Brighton 2017, I was out running the next day. No pain. Because what happens as well, when we're breathing out through the mouth and, using up our CO2, we're switching on fast twitch muscle fibers, which we have far fewer of. We use sugar as fuel. We get pain in the body. You're producing more lactic acid. When you're breathing in through the nose, out through the nose, you're using the slow twitch muscle fibers. You're using fat as fuel. Everything changes. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh! You need to coach me, please.
Yeah,
I think
no
I think I've got it. You can coach me because, like, I did a marathon, like, again 20+ years ago, and it was in 6 hours. So if you can get me like down to under 5, I'd be really happy.
Yeah, let's go for it. Brighton.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do that. That's amazing.
But Essie, that is an exercise, like, and there's certain techniques you can do to increase your tolerable levels to CO2. And it's a very, very simple thing that we can do. But my main interest in terms of breathing is what I call the every breath. A question. You might know the answer to this. How many times a day does the average person breathe?
I would have to look at, well, maybe say 15 breaths per minute, and then you need to work it up, and then it's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, so the average adult will breathe 15 times a minute, which is 21,600 times. So being an accountant, I have to use my maths every now and then. So we breathe 20,000 odd times a day. And I think it's crazy that we do something 20,000 odd times a day and we pay absolutely no attention to it whatsoever. So I like to ask, talk to people, how many days can we go without food?
Maybe without food, quite a long time.
Yeah, you can go several weeks, right?
Yeah.
Without food. How many days can we go without liquid water?
It's about 7 days, something.
2 days, right? How long can we go without breathing?
Yeah. Not long.
Our most vital life force, right? And we know nothing about it. And it impacts every single thing we do. We've got the central nervous system, the brain and the spine, which we can determine what we do with certain muscles and so on. We've got the autonomic nervous system, which is not under our direct control. Our lifestyle influences it, but we can't decide blood pressure, go higher, heartbeat faster, it's automatically working on our behalf. It's amazing, actually. I just think, human body is just amazing. Breath is a system in the body, the only system which can be voluntary or involuntary. So we decide either to allow circumstances to determine how we breathe, so like panic, or, so we allow what's happening to determine how we breathe, or we decide how to breathe. So my main interest is in that, what I call the every breath. How should we breathe? How should we breathe? And then when we get into a habit of watching our breath, that becomes a new habit. And when we start to breathe rhythmically, harmonically, and I'll just explain how we should do that, the heart rate variability comes smooth, we're not switching off this part of our brain. We don't decide to change when we're, into breathing. Change happens.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of the time when we're stressed and the heart's like this, we remember something that makes us happy. Like most of us grow up in circumstances where food is used as a punishment or reward mechanism. If you're good, you'll get sweets. If you're good, this. If you're bad, you're going to bed, and you're not getting sweets, you're not getting this. So we're wired the neural pathways are wired to associate, sweets with being good. So if you're like this, we don't want to be like that. So the neural pathway is like, oh, when you had sweets, you felt good. So quite often we can be saying, right, okay, I'm going to stop eating sweets, I'm going to stop this, and I'm going to start doing that. But you get stressed, and it can just be because you're in a traffic jam, or because someone said, I don't like you, or you think someone doesn't like you. Especially now with all the texting, you're like, we're looking for people to like us. And then so, like, your subconscious is saying, well, take some sweets. And you're saying, no, don't take the sweets. Take the sweets. And this, we can't win a fight with ourselves. So we tend to like take the sweets. And then, like when we first had those sweets, we would get dopamine, pleasure hormone. But now we're like, no, I shouldn't have eaten the sweets. So you get more cortisol, and then you need more sweets. And so we get this like vicious circle. When you start to breathe and everything's in harmony, you feel good. If we realize that the goodness is in us, we don't need something outside of us. We are innately amazing, good. It's magic. And all we have to do is look inside. So when we start to breathe and the heart comes like this, we just switched on. We've woken up, as you said.
Yeah.
And once you've woken up, you can't go back to sleep.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and it's so simple. So this is what I call the every breath. And what happened? What HeartMath research and other research shows, the ideal way to breathe is, for most people, is in through the nose and out through the nose. Now we should breathe deeply, but that's not a deep breath. That's again stressing the body and sending signals. So a deep breath should be silent, soft, but we breathe all the way down to the bottom of the lungs. The dome-shaped muscle here, the diaphragm, will just naturally move down, and the abdomen will just slightly expand and contract.
So just to interject there, so that's very different. I mean, that's Buteyko, isn't it? That sort of.
No, this is not the Buteyko.
Okay.
So Buteyko is certain exercises to increase the CO2. Now, you will naturally do that as well with this, but there's specific exercises on the CO2. This is different kind of branch of science through neuroscience. And
and is it something that have you sort of put what you feel is a good sort of exercise? Okay, this is the Barbara Pidgeon way. So
but it's based on
based on that. No, that's great. People, but it's based on your experience, which I think is important. It's not just okay, I'm taking this from here, taking it from there. What I'm interested, I went to see Wim Hof. You know Wim Hof, the Iceman. I'm sure if you haven't heard of, people listening not heard of him, then just Google him, you'll see him. And I think he's brought things on. He's brought the awareness of the importance of intent, importance of breathing to the general public, which I think is just amazing. If I have a but, it is that he can be aggressive with his breathing, and his intent with that breathing can be quite aggressive, isn't it? It's sort of breathe. What do you think about that?
So I practice Wim Hof breathing, and through those practices I can hold my breath for 5 minutes.
Wow.
And also, and I also do other yogic breathing exercises, but they're breathing exercises, Essie. And so my emphasis is on how do you breathe when you're not doing the exercise? And that's where we want to breathe very softly, deeply, but deep as in coming down to the bottom of the lungs. And what neuroscience shows is the sweet spot is if we breathe in for about 5 seconds and breathe out for 5 seconds, then, that sends, signals to the heart. The heart will start to have this nice, smooth sine wave, going up and down and up and down. And then the heart is the strongest organ in the body. It has an electromagnetic signal far more powerful than the brain. Through the vagus system, the heart will send a message to the brain and say that the heart is taking the signal from the breath and our thoughts and environment and so on. But through the breath, we're signaling either when there's no danger, or often are we actually exposed to immediate danger? Hardly ever. An immediate threat might be, there's a kid about to go out in the road. You don't want to be thinking, oh, how old is that kid? You want to act. But these are the only kind of occasions. A building's on fire. You want to get out. But we're just got all this rumination going on, especially at this time with the virus.
Yeah.
And if we could just, say to people, stop, pause, breathe in, breathe out. You think more clear, you make more wise decisions, you become happier, you sleep better, everything is better. But also, Essie, what's really important, when the heart is going this nice smooth, this electromagnetic signal of the heart is very powerful, and your heart and my heart are talking to each other.
Yeah.
So you're in a room, and if the signal's like this, the room is erratic. And I remember as a kid, if I wanted something, I would wait till my mother's friends were in, because I know she'd be in a happy mood. I didn't know then that her heart was probably going like this. And I know, I would say, oh, can I get such and such? And she couldn't say no, of course. But the same, when you come in a room and you know your mother's in a bad mood, you're like, oh. And what we're picking up on is the heart. It's amazing how this innate intelligence that we have in the cells of our body, this wow, it's amazing. So, and so you can be talking to me, I'm talking to you, we're up here, we're not aware, but our bodies know whether we're telling each other the truth, whether we're being authentic, and you get all these gut feelings and so on, but we tend to be disconnected from that. And our whole education was designed to disconnect us from our feelings.
And I think part of this awakening, part of this great awakening is that, isn't it? It's awakening the innate intelligence within us, the electromagnetic quantum intelligence within us, which is under our control. But we have to learn, don't we? We have to learn how to access that. It's been shut down. We need to learn how to bring it back to life again. And I know you're going to do, maybe in the next few minutes, do a little exercise.
Yeah, so maybe just for anyone who's listening, if they feel comfortable, ideally our spines are straight. I've also studied mindfulness and all different things. But mindfulness is not about being stiff and, you don't have to sit cross-legged. I'm comfortable doing it now and I like it. But we'd still want our spine to be straight and allow the blood to flow, allow the energy to flow, but not in a stiff way. So if anyone's listening who'd like to just try this, just get in a nice, comfortable position. Ideally, the spine is straight. And if on a chair, both feet flat on the ground, and palms on the lap, hands on the lap, either palms up or palms down, just as you prefer. And if anyone's comfortable, just close the eyes, just gently. And just initially, for a few moments, watch the breath. Watch the breath as it goes in, and watch it as it goes out. And then purposely thinking, okay, I'm going to breathe in through my nose very softly, gently. I'm going to bring the breath all the way down to the bottom of the lungs. And I'll just feel a very slight rise in the abdomen. So we're breathing in through the nose, gently, softly, deeply, and breathing out through the nose. The whole body's just relaxed. Just surrendering ourselves to gravity, knowing that we're being held safely. We don't need to hold on to any tension or anything. Just watching the breath. Now, the ideal ratio of breath is breathing in for 5 seconds and breathing out for 5 seconds. Now, at the start, that can be quite challenging, so whatever ratio you feel is comfortable, breathe in through the nose, either for a count of 3 or 4 or 5 if it's comfortable, and breathe out in the same ratio. So find a rhythm of breathing which you find comfortable. So very softly and gently, just feel the air caressing the nostrils, going all the way down to the bottom of the lungs. Abdomen just slightly rising and falling. Body relaxed, just making sure there's no tension. And just watch the breath, breathing in, say, for an even ratio, in for a count of 3 or 4 or 5, and out again through the nose. So ideally breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. And again, if that's challenging using the nose, there are other exercises that we could do to be able to breathe through the nose. So just try for now if you can, just very softly and gently. And even breathing in for a count of 2. Try using the nose and just try to be very gentle and kind and compassionate to yourself. So we could sit just doing this anytime, just getting this even ratio of breath, deep and soft. So what would happen is, naturally, the number of breaths starts to reduce. Now, if we're breathing in for 5 seconds and out for 5 seconds, then rather than breathing 20-odd thousand times a day, we're breathing like around 8,000 times a day. We're using our energy much more efficiently. The heart is coming, like happy, and then all the systems in the body are happy. So we naturally gravitate to make better choices, etc., etc. So this is what I call the every breath. This is the number one thing. And the beauty of breathing, Essie, of course, is it's free.
Yes, yes.
I'm Scottish, so I like free stuff. We have a reputation as being. It's free.
Yeah.
And you can't tell me, oh, sorry, I just don't have time to breathe. We're always breathing, right? Now, you can be doing this in the car, you can be doing it on the tube, you can be doing it in the kitchen. I have this Omani guy that I was doing some stuff with, and he told me he does it when he's in the toilet. I said, okay.
That's his only quiet time.
But literally, we can do this anytime, anywhere. On my phone, I have a little bell that rings every 45 minutes, and I'll check in with my breath.
Yeah.
And how am I breathing? How am I breathing? And now for me, because this is now about 15 years I've been researching breath. Now I wake up in the morning, the first thing I'm aware of is my breath. And so this has become my habitual way of breathing now, this breathing in and breathing out. So this, thing about building up tolerance to CO2 and all sorts of stuff, my VO2 max, my ability to uptake oxygen is superior for someone in their 30s.
Wow.
And I'm obviously not 30s, right?
Wow. And you've seen that change, or did you know what it was before?
I know it wasn't I was fit,
yeah,
but I wasn't healthy. And so I would imagine my VO2 max would have been fairly good.
Yeah.
But the incidence actually of cardiovascular disease between athletes and non-athletes is not that significant because of this. If you're running like that,
Yeah.
Why? I mean, why would you run like that? Because you're being chased by a tiger.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense.
Yes.
And there's a doctor, Phil Maffetone, who I've met. We spent some time together, and he also talks about keeping your heart rate low, and you just become fitter, faster, healthier, happier. And yeah, what I was saying about the heart rate variability, if your heart's like this, the people around you are happier.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like,
Yeah. Yeah. This is amazing. We're coming up toward the hour, and so what I want you to do is, I know you work with groups of people. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do with those people? And I know you do one-to-ones, you do groups. What is it that you do with them?
well, it depends, Essie. So most of my work is kind of like corporate. And right now I'm working with some young future leaders in Saudi Arabia. For Al Marai, it's the biggest food company in the Middle East. And I'm doing a mindfulness program for them. And of course, it involves breathing and so
Yeah.
on. I do things like for organizations called Leading from Heart. Everything I do will be breath.
Yes.
Yeah, but with my corporate background and leadership stuff, so and what I'm trying to do with organizations at the moment is get this concept of them having a heart score. With the heart math, they have a device which you clip on your ear, and you can actually watch your heart rate variability. And so the group in Saudi that I'm working with at the moment, they all have the heart math devices. And so over time, and we've just started, we'll hopefully be seeing that the heart scores will increase. Now, ideally, if organisations would focus on that, the results naturally follow. So the research shows absenteeism will go down, people are more honest, people are more authentic, and also we're more insightful. So we get better ideas by
Yes,
this.
of course. Yeah, you releasing creativity, aren't you?
Yeah,
Because of the whole frontal,
yeah.
and your ability to to key in with other people, with your
Um,
surroundings. You release that creativity. That's
and
amazing.
one of the key things I say is you're more compassionate and you're kinder,
Yeah.
And I've also worked with women in the Middle East and other places, teaching them to run for the
Wow.
first time. That was amazing. I got a group and did their first ever 5K last year, and that was just, in a healthy way. So it's,
Yeah, fantastic. And do
yeah,
you do, I mean, how do people get in touch with you if they want to do, say, one-to-ones, if you want, because I imagine there will be people that, would want more of you.
yeah. I mean, the best thing is actually through my email. I kind of like to work organically,
Yeah. What is
and
that email?
so Barb,
Let
probably the best, BARB.
I'll
Oh
type it
yeah,
in. BARB, yeah.
at Breathwise,
Breath
BREATH
wise
wise dot
dot.
co.uk, or is it? Yeah,
Okay, I'll put that out on there.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I haven't. I came off all the social media. I don't like the manipulation that happens and all of that,
yeah.
and yeah, I just prefer the more kind of like meeting people like the way we met, and then
Yes,
you know just
exactly.
yeah, more human connection. I prefer that.
So this has just been amazing, and you're a gift. You're a gift
Thank
to
you.
humanity. So thank you, and you know, we'll have you back again if that's okay.
Yeah, I'd love
And
to.
maybe we'll take little groups, break it down, and so you can actually, impart in a systematic way how we should be breathing. Because I think that it's not taught. My thing is that people aren't taught how to eat healthily. You have all these messages out on in the press, etc., but none of it is coherent.
Mm,
And it's the same with breathing, the same with thoughts. The
yes.
thoughts and
Yeah.
the intent with the breathing and affecting the heart.
Mm,
We need to be taught this. We actually
yeah.
need to be, we're taught how to do maths, we're taught how to read and write, but we're not taught how to breathe. We're not taught how to think, how to
Yes, exactly.
integrate
Yeah,
integrate all of that. And also,
yeah.
one of the interesting things is that some of the research that I've been reading about the adrenal glands, and the link with the gut and the brain is that a lot of the studies were showing that actually the gut produces cortisol, not just the adrenal gland, the gut.
Mm,
Now, the ability for the gut to produce the cortisol is programmed in. And if there's been childhood traumas
yes.
and childhood stresses, it's programmed in to create a certain microbial profile, which
Mm,
which creates cortisol, which
mm,
probably shuts off the adrenal
mm,
gland. You get this negative effect, so you're not getting the
mm.
right responses itself in the adrenal gland. Now, what's interesting for me is that you've gone through breath work and you've obviously reset that because the childhood
Totally, totally.
traumas
Yeah,
you've reset.
yeah, exactly. And that's, the amazing benefit. So simple, it's
Yeah,
free,
yeah,
and
exactly.
yeah, and we can reset everything. So
Yeah.
literally, I mean, it's been amazing, amazing.
So we'll have you back. So thank you so much. And
Thank
I'll just
you.
put your email up there if anyone wants to contact you
Thanks.
again. So great. So I'm going to sign off now.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, bye.
That's it for now, everyone. Remember, change starts with you. Be well.